on that conversation, some big fight bookings. Isreal Adesanya, not against Robert Whittaker defending his 185-pound belts, but rather moving up to 205, not to face against Jon Jones, but rather against Jan Blachowitz, the current 205-pound champion. This is quite a big move. Now, I've heard Ariel Helwani has kind of been selling the narrative that this kind of looks like he's running away from Jon or any of that stuff, which I really disagree with. Ariel's been talking about how this is a bad look for Isreal. I think that this is a great look for Isreal. I think it's a perfect setup, in my opinion, to go up to 205, take Jon Jones's belt, as Noah said, make him the saltiest piece of salt that exists. Make him absolute pink Himalayan sea salt out there. Make the man pure NaCl right here.
He'll be so goddamn angry.
It'll be so great. Izzy will be the 185 champion, the 205 champion, and if we really get the cream on the crop, the really way to really piss Jon off is to not have him fight anyone at heavyweight before then. So at this point, Jon just hasn't fought in a year. And meanwhile, Izzy's come up and taken his belt without even having to fight him, and Jon gave it up for nothing. And now Jon is going to have to make the decision: do I go to heavyweight or have the perfect setup for what Isreal has been saying for years? 2021 Raider Stadium in LA, Jon Jones versus Isreal Adesanya for the absolute mega fight, and Izzy at that point could ostensibly be the double champion and have Jon's belt.
And that's why one day Izzy will be looked back at as the greatest fighter to ever do it. Maybe I have my thoughts that he will be looked at as the greatest potentially if everything goes according to his plan.
Everything goes according to plan. If he goes and does like this fight, beats Jon at 205, goes to heavyweight, wins the heavyweight championship belt, there's no conversation.
He's certainly the most ambitious fighter right now. He is certainly the most ambitious out there. And God, it's going to be so fun to watch his career progress there. Fuck Jon Jones. He's salt mine right now, and he's going to continue to be a salt mine. Let's see. How long after Isreal takes the belt, the light heavyweight belt, does it take for Jon Jones to get another DUI? There's my question. I think it happens that night. I think that during the fight, he's going to go out for a little drive and get caught.
I want to see the Twitter tirade the night Isreal fights Jan.
Oh my God,
that would be so entertaining.
He's gonna be like a live fact checker on like one of those for like a political debate. He's like every single movement he makes, he's gonna have something to say about it.
All right, well, let's put the brakes on the Isreal versus Jon conversation. And Adam, I'm gonna let you start off with this one. Who do you see winning Isreal against Jan? Because in order to get to Jon, he has to beat Jan Blachowicz, and that's not an easy task, in my opinion.
No.
Adam, who do you see winning that fight, and how do you see it going?
As of now, I don't know. I think Izzy takes it. Jan's fantastic on the feet. He took out Reyes, but Izzy is just miles above everybody else on the feet, and he's exemplified that in his last few fights. I don't think this goes to the ground at all. I think it stays on the feet, and Izzy just outclasses him and gets that second belt. I honestly don't see it going any other way.
I do think Isreal will win, but what's interesting to me is whether it can go to the ground. Jan is actually very good on the ground. He's shown to be very good on the ground in the past, but he has to get Isreal there, and it's not easy to. However, he's also got the weight advantage. I think if Jan gets his hands on Izzy, if Jan has Izzy against the fence, I can very much see Jan taking Izzy down, and I can very much see Izzy having problems getting out from underneath him because he's so big and heavy. Now, the big problem, though, for Jan is closing that distance in the first place. I think Izzy has the footwork, he has the jab, he has the distance management, I think, to be able to stay off the fence and to be able to keep the distance between him and Jan. However, if he has a fuck up, if Jan is able to close that distance, I do think Jan will have success up close. So I think Izzy's has got to be able to keep his normal game going, use that footwork, use that jab, that distance management, and I actually think he kind of has to think about taking Jan out kind of early, because I think the longer he's in there with Jan, that power is the last thing to go, and he always has that risk of getting taken down or getting hit by a big shot, and I think it's problematic if he does. But before that, then, as long as Izzy is agile like he usually is, I think it's Izzy's game all day.
Do we have any indication to how well Jan's cardio holds up in the championship rounds?
I mean, he fought Jacare for 5 rounds, and yes, it was mostly a grimy, against the fence, grappling, clinch work kind of fight, but he was able to survive it for 5 rounds against Jacare.
Because Isreal, I have no doubts about his cardio making it the full 5 rounds, but especially with the extra weight that Jan's bringing in, makes it a little more difficult.
Actually, though, but when you have a 205-pound guy leaning on you for 4 or 5 rounds,
sure,
it's a lot harder to keep up your energy. So all these things, like the weight change, puts a lot of the things that we quote know about Izzy into question. It does not put in the speed or the agility or the elusiveness into question, but the takedown defense it does, because it is different against a big guy like that. His everything on the ground in general, just his ability to get up on the ground, his scrambling ability, it does put that a little bit into question, because you don't know how that's going to be against a big heavy guy, and the cardio. Right. If it gets to the ground, will change. But if it stays on the feet in a striking game, of course, any day, Izzy is going to destroy him cardio-wise as well.
Right. Well, Isreal has just given me absolutely nothing. I have no reason to doubt him. He says he can do it. He can do it. No, every single time he fights, I think, all right, this is the fight that's going to prove that there's nothing he can't do. And then the next fight comes up and he's like, oh, but here's the real challenge to him. It just keeps happening. And he just keeps winning. At what point are we just going to say, yeah, he's just going to do whatever the hell he wants. He's going to get it.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see if this goes well. If this goes well, then again, this is just more evidence to, Israel's overwhelming greatness.
Absolutely.
Great fight. Love it. Very excited. Super excited to see Jones's reaction to all of this.